Hey everybody, this month I wanted to cover using Chameleon pens on photographs. Now I'm using a black and white Polaroid that we took, but certainly you can use any photograph or a black and white printout on a slick piece of paper. What I really wanted to show is how the alcohol inks and the color gradations react when you're working on such a slick surface. So I'm going to use just two pens. I'm using the BR5, the bark, and the YO2, the mellow yellow. And what's really cool about working on a surface like this is alcohol inks are permanent, so they dry very quickly on this surface. But I can also, because it's absorbent, do things like color gradation. Now, you don't really need a very long fuse. I'll tell you that. I'm just going to touch that off to the side because it's not absorbent. What you're going to find is that it actually you have a long period of time to play here. So I could even test off and get a little bit more of that toning medium off. And I'm wanting to get just, this is just showing you, this is just a mere hint of a tint. Okay, it's a very, very light yellow. But I'm not going to, I'm just going to keep going along so you can see how I'm getting all these different colors out of my one yellow Chameleon pen. So rather than having to have a whole bunch of different yellows, I can use this same yellow and get all these different hints and shades of yellow. I'm just going to keep going along here so you can sort of see what's going on. So see how that's getting darker? So that is all a whole color gradation. Now, I could also do a color gradation from light to dark, but again, just the merest hit of toning medium you want on there because it's not absorbing, it will allow you to have a lot longer play. So see how I'm able to play a lot longer here? You can even sort of pull the color down like what I'm doing here and then work your way down so you get that toning medium out. Now feel free to use the brush or the bullet nib. This is actually in pure color. Where did I? Yeah, there we go. So I'm using the bullet nib in pure color here now. And again, it's a slick surface, so you can see what I'm doing here. And it dries fairly quickly. So you can have a lot of fun tinting your photos. You can imagine all the neat things you can do. One other thing I want to show you as well is working with the bark. I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use the brush nib. Or should I try the bullet nib? Let's see here. Let me use the brush nib. So I'm going to use the brush nib. And I'm going to give this a light hint of the toning medium. I'm going to work on this inside here because I want it to go from light to dark. And I'm just going to use sort of a dotting motion. So this is kind of a combination of methods. This is basically like color hopping because I'm keep moving along as I'm spending out the toning medium. And it's also a stipple effect, right? So we're using basically two methods here. We're getting the color gradation happening because we're starting to spend out that toning medium and we're starting to get more of a stippled effect. So again, it's wet. What I would suggest to do is to wait a couple seconds and you can layer color upon color upon color. So that's, once that dries, I won't be moving it around anymore. So I can go back over top and layer color. It dries actually fairly quickly, which is kind of cool. But now I get such a different tonal on tone because I did that light tone underneath and then I went back over top. So there's just a couple of techniques. Finally, this is something that I figured out. If you happen to make a mistake and you want to erase it, what I do is I just use a little bit of colorless toning medium. This is just the colorless toning medium in the ink refill, okay, the colorless blender. And all I do is I just dip it in there. Now, if I wanted to remove color, you can see I can actually take the color back off. So it's kind of neat. You can play around with it, take it off, put it back on, and then once it dries, it's on there pretty permanently. Again, unless you try and remove it with a colorless blender or alcohol, I'm sure. But this way you can tint the photos and they can look absolutely beautiful. I just love it. Have a lot of fun. Take care.